So in this video, I'm gonna be talking about something I feel isn't talked about enough, and I feel people don't want to mention, and that's how high stakes men and women are praised for who they are, while low stakes men are just hated for who they are. It doesn't really matter what they do. High stakes men and women are always praised for who they are, and they are celebrated, and they're seen as inspirations. Again, it doesn't even matter if they're into like something weird or whatever. It doesn't mean if they're into something mainstream. And one great example of it is in the anime community. There's this famous guy, you probably have seen his before, but his name is the Anime Man, and he has a huge following, and he has a huge following just for talking about anime and other things Japanese culture. And he's just praised for who he is. He is seen as an example. He is praised, and people want to come up to him when he goes to conventions. And on the other hand, remember like back in the day when anime fans used to be hated so much? It was like because it was not mainstream, it was seen as weird. And there's this like viral YouTube video of this guy. He he's nicknamed Davido-kun, and he's like a from what I've seen, he looks like an exchange student. But there's this segment on Japanese TV where like the host take a visit to where he lives, and then they just bully him for being who he is, and he is seen as weird, and it's just like and even in the comment section, the people just bully him for no reason. He's just doing nothing but enjoying himself and just showing appreciation for a culture, yet he's bullied for who he is. I mean, and some people argue it's because the anime man has looks, while Davido-kun is not winning on the looks game. Well, I have to disagree on that because I'll show another example of like a famous YouTuber who is praised for being who he is, and you guys probably know who he is, but he is the angry video game nerd. And if you look at pictures of him, he just looks like this typical guy you would who usually gets bullied at school. And I wouldn't say he's winning on the looks game, but people like him nonetheless because he is high status. And this whole like hierarchy, like just how like we as men have to like prove ourselves before we have to be accepted. It's really like that in the anime convention community because you see like a lot of like men, they just wander around, they just mind your own business, yet somehow they get falsely accused of harassment for no reason, and they're just seen as weird because they're not high status enough, they're not famous enough in the community. And that's why you like go on these apps like Instagram, they talk about like, oh, watch out for this guy, and it's usually a picture of a guy that no one knows, but yet they want to like tarnish his name before they even decide to meet him. It's just crazy how like us men we have to deal with all these things. And another example of like a famous person who is praised for who he is, and that's not because of his looks or whatever. It. I'm not sure you guys recognize his name, but his name is like Dan Aykroyd, and if you guys don't know, he was one of the Blues Brothers. And if you look at pictures of him, he's like a chubby guy, and he's no like Tom Cruise or Leonardo DiCaprio in terms of looks. And also like he's on the autism spectrum, but yet he's praised for who he is because he's famous. People don't see him for like his flaws; they see him for like what he did, and that's just another problem. I mean, from what I see, women do not have to do all these things in order to be accepted by society. And I'll give you another example. The current like fandom that I feel that's been getting a lot of hate, and it's like a punching bag in the whole geek community. It's a furry fandom, and they're accused of like a lot of things. They're accused of wanting to be another animal. They're accused of like wanting to have you know what with animals. And it's usually the men that gets a lot of hate from the fandom. And from what I've seen, the fandom, like a lot of like these people, they're just really concerned about how people perceive them, and they decide to ostracize our members of the group so that the outside world or the so-called normies don't have bad opinions. But the thing is, the reason why some furries get praised for who they are because of status. Like here's one example. Like so, there's this like another famous YouTuber who came out as furry, supposedly came out as furry not long. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I think it's true. But he did come out as furry not long ago, and that's I know this guy's name as well, but it's the odd one is out. So it's this animation storytime YouTuber who got super famous just for drawing cartoons of his own life. And and not too long ago he came out as a furry, and from what I hear there's a lot of praise for him, and he's just praised for who he is because at the end of the day he has status. And here's another example. There's also, you've probably seen this person as well. It's Vivsy Pop, the person behind the Hellaverse, or has been until and Hell of a Boss. And not sure if she actually considers herself a furry, but her art has a lot of furry elements and attracts a lot of the male furries into watching her stuff. And of course, she's praised for who he is. A lot, even though I know she has haters and stuff, but for the most part, she's praised for who he is, and people line up to get her autograph. And yet, you have these like people just male furries, and they just uh, they just mind their own business, going around the convention. Yet, someone could just take a picture of them, and then they just for the world to bully them. And it just shows that like there's not much self-expression. Like the lower stakes you have as a guy, and if you're just a guy and not a girl, the less self-expression you have. Like, and people sometimes tell me, oh, don't care about what people think. But here's the thing, you gotta understand the ramifications of what happens if you're like ostracized. Unfortunately, not all of us have the luxury of like being able to, live with our parents, or just get passive income. Not all of us have the luxury, and many of us have to go out in the real world and find work. And the thing is, like, just not being accepted by society has a huge toll on us in terms of like our chances of just even trying to support ourselves. And also, like, it's also important to mention that we're not humans for the most. I'll say this again: humans for the most part are social beings. We're not like cats who are just solitary animals. We're not considered the solitary species, and we have our instincts where we want to like connect with others. We want to like be accepted, and that's kind of why like people such as Maslow create the hierarchy of needs. I mean, you could debate me all you want about the hierarchy of needs, but like there's a reason why he created it. Why, and he's not the only one who came up with this. Because at the end of the day, humans are social beings, and we strive to be accepted. We can't just simply like not care what other people think, because unfortunately, how others perceive us has a negative effect on our opportunities. Because I wish it was simple as that, but unfortunately, from my experience as a guy who's almost in his 30s, that's the way the world works. Okay, I've seen like people in the anime convention community just get ostracized, just get left out of the only place they could be themselves, just for being themselves. It's crazy. So yeah, hopefully you guys get what I'm just trying to say, because not many people are mentioning this, and I'm just noticing like the gap in perception, the gap in empathy between people. Like, you have like one set of a population who is allowed to be themselves, and you have another set of population who is not allowed to be themselves. I don't consider that a just world. I don't consider that equality. I mean, and the crazy thing is that like these like so-called like communities, they some of them even like claim they want to fight for the little guy, and yet they display the same behavior that they supposedly advocate against. Anyways, thanks for listening.